The Mohonk Preserve, the Palisades Interstate Park Commission, and the New York State Office of Parks, Recreation, and Historic Preservation have launched an urgent joint initiative to rebuild the historic Smiley Family Carriage Road network in New York State's Shawangunk Mountains. There are only a handful of natural areas in the entire world that the Nature Conservancy has named Last Great Places, the most unique and endangered nature preserves and sanctuaries on Earth. Of all these, the Shawangunk Ridge stands out because it is both spectacularly beautiful, with the largest concentration of sheer cliffs east of the Rockies, and extremely accessible, with over 52 million people within a day's drive. The historic Smiley Carriage Road network is in the most rugged and scenic portion of the Shawangunk Mountains in Ulster County, New York, approximately 90 miles from New York City. Although relatively modest in size and elevation, the neighboring Catskill Mountains are nearly twice as tall. The Gunks feature an astonishing variety of natural beauty, with high plateaus dotted with glacially formed sky lakes and tens of thousands of acres of nearly undisturbed forest lands crossed by cascading streams and waterfalls. This varied landscape harbors an equally impressive diversity of wildlife, with 35 natural communities that provide habitat to many rare and endangered plants and animals. Tragically, some of the most beautiful parts of this magnificent landscape could soon be closed to the public because portions of the historic carriage road network that crisscrosses the ridge are crumbling. The Shawangunk Carriage Road system is part of a National Historic Landmark landscape. With prompt action, these remarkable roads can be saved. Rebuilding the carriage roads will benefit the region in three ways. It will preserve an important part of America's cultural heritage. It will allow the broadest possible segment of the public to experience this semi-wilderness, and it will safeguard important natural communities by restricting those visitors to the carriage roads. The public-private partnership of the Palisades Interstate Park Commission, the New York State Office of Parks, Recreation, and Historic Preservation, and the Mohonk Preserve is uniquely qualified to carry out this rebuilding in an efficient and cost-effective manner. In 1869, Alfred H. Smiley visited the Shawangunks on an outing and was so taken with the landscape that he and his twin brother Albert purchased 280 acres and founded the Mohonk Lake Resort. Their goal was to create a resort hotel that would provide opportunities for recreation and renewal of the body, mind, and spirit in a beautiful natural setting. In 1876, Alfred purchased the 2,500 acres surrounding Lake Minnewaska, opening the Lake Minnewaska Mountain House 2 years later. The Smiley brothers, who had been raised as Quakers, believed in encouraging all their guests to enjoy the quiet contemplation of nature, and it was with this in mind that they developed the carriage road system. Between 1870 and 1929, the family designed and constructed almost 70 miles of hand-built broken stone carriage roads built to the best engineering standards of their day, with particular attention given to problems of drainage and erosion. The cost was roughly $1 per foot, for a total cost of approximately $370,000. This enormous investment, equivalent to over $43 million of today's dollars, shows the remarkable intensity of the Smiley family commitment to enabling people to connect with nature. By linking this carriage road system to existing farm roads and access roads, the overall network grew to well over 80 miles. With every road, the Smiley twins also made improvements to the landscape, using aesthetic forestry to create vistas that evoked a romantic landscape ideal in the tradition of Frederick Law Olmsted, Calvert Vaux, and the Hudson River School of Painters. The resulting roads are remarkable, gracefully following the contours of the land, highlighting the most beautiful natural features and taking advantage of the most impressive views. The historic Shawangunk carriage roads now span 3 pieces of property: The Mohonk Mountain House Resort, still owned and operated by the Smiley family, has retained 2,200 acres of the family's original holdings, including 20 miles of carriage roads. The Mohonk Preserve, a non-profit nature preserve open to the public, owns and protects an additional 7,000 acres of the ridge, including 28 miles of historic roads. And the Minnewaska State Park Preserve, managed by the Palisades Interstate Parks Commission, has nearly 21,000 acres with 35 miles of carriage roads. Together, these three entities steward an important part of American history. Thanks to reciprocal arrangements among the three landowners, the public can access the entire road network. Through the Mohonk Mountain House, the Smiley family continues to make significant investments in maintaining carriage roads on its land. Even with their limited resources, the Mohonk Preserve and PIPC have made significant investments in carriage road maintenance over the past several decades. Nevertheless, certain important features of the road network are missing, and many sections are in desperate need of repair. Right now, the historic Smiley family carriage roads are rapidly deteriorating due to a lack of funding for maintenance. Although many roads are over 100 years old, there has never been a comprehensive network-wide restoration campaign. Instead, routine maintenance, clearing brush, filling potholes, and repairing culverts, has been supplemented by piecemeal rebuilding projects. Historic bridges have been removed, damage from floods and ice storms has resulted in long-term and potentially permanent carriage road closures. The proliferation of new trees, including some invasive species, has eliminated many of the vistas that had been meticulously framed by the Smileys' aesthetic forestry efforts. Deferral of the most expensive maintenance projects has accelerated the road's rate of deterioration. Deferral is no longer an option. It is still possible to save these unique and historic roads. With prompt action and continued maintenance, the roads that we rebuild today should last another 100 years. This means that a comprehensive restoration effort launched now would serve tens of millions of visitors well into the 22nd century. Now more than ever, it is important for people to have opportunities for a direct experience with nature. The combination of extraordinary natural beauty and relative proximity to New York City means that currently an estimated 400,000 people a year visit land that was historically owned by the Smiley family. Horses and even carriages are not uncommon, but the majority of these visitors are hikers, rock climbers, mountain bikers, runners, and cross-country skiers. The historic carriage roads allow recreational access to the ridge from 7 different towns, making them an essential part of the region's tourism infrastructure. In terms of access, an extensive carriage road network is a tremendous asset to any park or preserve. Properly maintained, roads like these can accommodate an enormous number of users with minimal impact. Unlike a conventional trail network made up of footpaths, carriage roads can be readily enjoyed by senior citizens and people with disabilities as long as the roads are in good condition. The exceptional number and variety of natural communities on the ridge has made it one of the highest priorities for biodiversity conservation in the eastern United States. However, the wealth of plant and animal life we now enjoy on the ridge is a fairly recent phenomenon. Consider the fact that for 200 years before the Smiley family arrived, European settlers had been steadily clearing the old-growth forests. The first carriage roads were therefore built through a nearly treeless landscape that featured a relatively narrow range of habitats and ecosystems. This means that the 35 distinct natural communities on the Shawangum Ridge today evolved alongside the historic carriage road network. The carriage road system actually helps protect this diversity of life by channeling foot, bike, and horse traffic along specified routes built to support a high level of use. This contains visitor impact, preventing informal trails, soil compaction, and erosion from damaging the ecosystem. Rebuilding the carriage road network ensures a balance between visitor access and habitat protection. It's easy to come up with a laundry list of urgent problems, missing bridges, collapsed and heavily eroded sections of road, but it is far more difficult to calculate what is required for a comprehensive, system-wide restoration. In a recently completed planning phase, we commissioned an engineering study to inventory the 63 miles of carriage roads on Mohonk Preserve and Minnewaska State Park Preserve property. The study documented the historic features and assessed what needs to be done to bring the carriage roads back to an optimal condition. The recommendation of this study defined the scope and priorities of the restoration. The discovery phase will be followed by the construction phase, during which the restoration work will be performed, and then finally by an endowment phase, during which funds will be raised to ensure ongoing long-term maintenance of the roads. We have already spent over $80,000 for the engineering study and have completed the planning phase. Now, the urgent need is for construction money. Our preliminary estimate for staff, equipment, and materials needed for the construction phase is approximately $30,000 to $85,000 per mile, depending on the condition of each road segment, or $4.8 million for 63 miles of carriage roads. Once funding is secured, construction should take approximately 3 years. Ongoing long-term maintenance of these roads, estimated conservatively at $200,000 per year, could be funded indefinitely by a $4 million endowment returning 5% per year. The return on this investment is both lasting and considerable. History has shown that with diligent maintenance, a carriage road can last for over 100 years. Moreover, the Mohonk Preserve and the Palisades Interstate Park Commission are uniquely positioned to restore this network in an efficient, cost-effective fashion. For other major projects, such as Sterling Forest and the Bear Mountain Inn, PIPC has been highly successful at raising private money to supplement any government funding. The Mohonk Preserve in particular has long been able to solicit in-kind donations of goods and services in ways that frequently bring projects in below budget. The value of the historic Smiley carriage roads goes far beyond their significance as unique examples of 19th century engineering and construction. The roads themselves are marvelous, but the experiences that they enable within this gem of a landscape are priceless. Today, this precious resource is at the tipping point of usability. With prompt action, we can safeguard access to one of the most remarkable landscapes in the eastern United States. Right now, we are engaged in the major fundraising effort that will allow us to put the plan into action. We hope that you will be able to help us launch this important project.